Hello and welcome to this round 5 here at Grand Prix Turin. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Matej Bigzy Zadelkai, and look at the deck description for Mark Tobiasz's deck. 4-color Zombie Merge up against, by the looks of things, ramming up red on the other side of things. Strategic planning on turn 2, not necessarily what you expect to see from every list in this format, and by the looks of it, Kozilek's Return going to be just one of the big old threats going to the graveyard for Mark Tobiasz here.
Yeah, and his deck is really something. I talked to Mark before this round, and he said that he played this deck at the PT, didn't do so well, but he's been working on it ever since to pretty satisfying results. He's 4-0 today, but remember, he had 3 buys, so he only won his first round today, and he's already under significant pressure with from mono red, rather, and I don't think it's this is a particularly good matchup for him, I would say. And there's the card that is the most different. It's the Grapple with the Past. It's a card we don't actually see that often, especially this sort of zombie merge deck is usually Grixis colors, so blue, black, red, and this is the reason why Mark is playing green. Grapple with the Past, he said it's very important to the way he wants his deck to be.
Now, there's already a Kozilek's Return in the graveyard. He's got one in hand, which he picked up off that strategic planning. That seems to be like the sort of card that on some boards could really help him out. He's going to be taking a big old chunk of damage here from this red deck, but he has the tools in hand to stabilize.
Yeah, he does. And it is significant pressure. He's down to 8, and we know that the Raminab red decks have a lot of reach, but he can also take control of games pretty fast once he gets initiative, with prized amalgams beating down fast, or even like something like Elder Deep Fiend tapping down lands or the team or similar.
So Paolo Garetta there, not deploying any more threats to the board. Smart play from him, because all of the ones that were there previously getting killed off. Let's see what his follow-up is post-combat. There we have Kari Zev. She would have survived a Kozilek's Return anyway, but, you know, better safe than sorry. And Evolving Wilds fetching a Swamp. So many different things to give Paolo Garetta pause here, at least in terms of him figuring out what he wants to do in future turns.
Yeah.
I guess that the red deck can kind of carry on regardless a fair amount of the time and just do its own thing.
And there's a Champion of Wits in Mark's hand. Another one of those key cards, as it just enables him to turn through his deck and present some additional creatures. It's like I thought it was a judge pointing at something. Oh.
Well, there is the Champion, so he's going to get to draw equal to its power, currently drawing 2, and then discard 2. Of course, there are various ways that can get a little bit spicier, not least of which is just eternalizing it, getting it back as a 4/4.
I think he's going to try to discard Haunted Dead, another key card in this particular deck. This will allow him to play a land and potentially later on discard to bring it back, and he already has a prize amalgam, so it's a nice way to get the ball rolling, so to speak.
Yeah, he's on 8 life, but beginning to hit a point where his deck's doing its thing. Unfortunately, against these red decks, letting your life dip too low too early, problematic. Here's Earthshaker Kenra. That's enough to mean that Champion of Wits is not going to be able to block. Is there a follow-up? It looks like there is. Another Earthshaker Kenra.
Jeez.
Big old attacks coming in here. Do not forget about Ragavan the Monkey, who's also going to be coming along as an attacker here. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 points of damage in attackers here. And Haunted Dead comes back. We're going to get a Spirit token.
Yeah, that's going to get shocked. So he's going to fall down to 1.
End of turn, he's going to get a prized amalgam into play. But too little, too late, quite possibly here. There's so much work for Mark Tobiasz to do here just to secure his safety for another turn.
It's going to be difficult.
Is that a Collective Brutality? That might help him a little bit, gaining a touch of life.
Yeah, he plays 2 in the main deck, as we have the deck in front of us. It's one of the cards that you want early, and it might just be a little too late.
And he needs to worry about the fact that there's already 5 lands in play for Paolo Garetta. He can start throwing Raminap Ruins. He can start eternalizing Earthshaker Kenras. All of these options spell big trouble for Tobiasz.
Yeah. Okay, so he's probably going to kill and drain.
Yeah, no cards in Garetta's hand, so no need for things to escalate any further than they already have.
Yeah. One of the most fun cards from Mark's deck is Driven to Despair. He actually drew. It's a one-off, and the Driven part would help him draw some cards, and Despair helps discard some cards. He had some really fun plays with that one previously, so he's quite happy. about having this option, but let's see if it stabilizes.
I mean, Paulo Garetta is in the lovely position here of if he draws lands, he's pretty happy. If he draws spells, he's pretty happy. Mark Tobias, yes, he gained a couple of life back, but not too much work needed to be done here in order to close this one out. On Crop
good draw.
Crasher.
Yeah,
that's enough to close
it.
things out for game one. A very swift one. Ramming up red, taking no prisoners here in Turin, Italy. These guys are going to be going to their sideboards. And I guess one thing that Mark Tobias has going for himself here is that I would guess that he knows more about this matchup than his opponent does, and he's going to be able to perhaps sideboard with a little bit more useful insight in the matchup.
Yeah, Mark sideboard suffers from one problem, and that he has a lot of one-offs because his deck goes through his library pretty fast by trying to bin as much as possible. You saw strategic planning, you saw grapple with the past. He's just trying to get a lot of stuff into his graveyard. He can take advantage of a lot of one-offs that he can bring back with the grapple with the past. So he has quite a few big one-off creatures like the Scarab God, Noxious Gearhog, Manglehorn, Distant Mindbender. But I think he has another Collective Brutality in the sideboard, which would definitely be useful. He has the Arborback Stomper, which I haven't seen in quite a while, but it's 5 mana, 5/5, gains you 5 life. It also has Trample, I think.
All of these, every single word that you said to me sounds good for this matchup.
Yeah, and also he will probably bring some like Catacomb Sifter just because it's more blockers. It gives you some creatures. Maybe you can scry yourself to some better cards. And maybe even I would assume Noxious Gearhog is going to make an appearance as well, just because you can gain some life back. It is expensive, but it does allow you to stabilize the board and present the big threat at the same time. Yeah,
it's interesting. Often you see decks that if they're running one-ofs, it's either that they're running kind of the 5th copy of some particular card that they already have 4 of, so it's something similar that sort of fills that hole, or they run it because they have lots of ways of searching. This deck, neither of those is quite true, but in some respects, any of the big creatures are a little bit interchangeable in as much as they've got a big body.
Yep.
And then because there are so many ways of filtering through the deck, as you mentioned, or sort of getting things back from the graveyard, while there's not a full-on search engine, you can't just sort of casually find the exact card that you need. You can find a lot of cards, which means that you've got a reasonable shot at drawing the one impactful card, and sometimes the one impactful card will be Arborback Stomper, sometimes the most impactful card might be Noxious Gearhulk. More one-ofs means more options for Mark Tobias.
Yeah. He could also just try to win with the really fast Elder Deep Fiend together with Kozilek's Return. That can usually be quite fast, but I think I saw him on board in a couple of Essence Scatters. Then I think he might have taken one out. Essence Scatter can be hit and miss if you have it early. Like it's fine to counter something, but also it kind of restricts you from developing your board further. So maybe not the best card, so he just wants in one as an option, but we'll see how exactly he sideboard here. With Raminem Rev, it's usually pretty straightforward. His game plan, Paulo's game plan, worked pretty well, and I'm curious to see if he has any cards that he wants to bring in, because we know that the Raminem Rep decks can approach the matchups in a fast way or a slow way. They can keep what they were doing before, or they can go into like Chandras and Glory Bringers, just try to go over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's seen and knows now that there is the potential for something like Kozilek's Return, and to be honest, he's not necessarily seen all of what Mark Tobias's deck's done. So I would definitely be tempted to say, let's see whether or not we can just run it back and make things work out, and only make spot adjustments if there are cards that were relatively specific to matchups that are not this one.
Yeah, and it looks like Mark has all 4 colors in 3 of his lands. I see Sunken Hollow, Botanical Sanctum, and a Mountain. He already has the Arborback Stomper in his hands, so that should be pretty good for him if he ever gets to cast it, as Bomat Courier just starts pecking away. Another important part of Mark's deck is that it is focused around green. He has 4 Traverse the Ulvenwald, and that's what he kind of uses to not only fixes mana early, which is important in a 4-color deck, but also fairly easy for him to hit Delirium, and so this way he can find the one-offs that we were talking about.
Okay, so he does have the full toolbox plan in addition to the sort of more casual milling plan.
Yeah, but he can also just like, start chaining Elder Deep Fiends once he's getting going, or he can find another priced Amalgam, or he can find the Haunted that trigger the Amalgam and so on. Ooh, double Bomat Courier. Not that much damage though.
I mean, it's still early doors. You're not necessarily expecting to get a crazy amount of damage in early. Leaves a mana open here. Mark Tobias here. He's got his mana sorted comparatively well, and he's got options here. He's going to get a chance to choose between throwing down a Catacomb Sifter or holding up mana for Kozilek's Return. Looks like he's going to risk not playing a threat this turn and just see what's coming from Paulo Goreta. If there was the turn 3 Uncrop Crasher this time round, this would be lovely for him. This would be exactly where he wants to be.
And now, Mark Paulo has to read that Haunted Dead. Yeah,
that's the fail case. If it works out that there's not a good reason to Kozilek's Return, then he can always just get back that Haunted Dead.
Yeah, so Uncrop Crasher, and there's the Kozilek's Return, swiping the board and just giving Mark so much time now to develop his board, because he can start going for the Haunted Dead prize Amalgams, but he can also go deeper. Can play it slow, play it fast. Plenty of options here.
I'd have been really tempted to let him attack and let him exile 2 more cards.
Yeah, but Mark could have played a Catacomb Sifter, but I think he has another Kozilek's Return, so he's gonna see what is up. And look, nothing.
He's got the option on the Haunted Dead.
Exactly.
So lots going on here. Looks like that's what's going to be happening here.
That's a discard of Kozilek's Return. I'm not sure if he's still doing it in main phase so that his prize Amalgam's going to come back.
Yeah, the trick is here, when your opponent passes at the end of their second main phase, if you activate then you get your prized Amalgam untapping on your turn. If you wait until it's the end step, it triggers at the beginning of the end step, so that things work out a little bit more poorly.
but this is important because Paulo could have still played a sorcery or a creature even after that had been triggered. Ooh, there's the Arborback Stomper. 5 mana, 5/5, gains you 5 life. Not bad.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
For this matchup, I will take as many Arborback Stompers as I can draw.
Yeah, and Paulo's like, okay, I'm going to shock your guy.
I'm going to shock your guy that gets to come back.
Yeah, as a Chandra. Oh. It's a 4/4?
5/4.
5/4.
Does not
I'm
line
really
up
bad at these.
quite as well against Chandra as we might have
it's still
hoped.
fine.
That life.
Yep.
The Spirit gets to finish off Chandra probably, unless he's worried about something killing off his zombie. But no, Chandra down, and Paulo Goreta's life total, the one that's taking a bit of a pounding in this second game.
Let's see, what else does he have going on? He's just going to go the traditional beatdown route. Oh. Okay, Haunted Dead.
Discard another prized Amalgam.
Yeah,
that all works out very neatly.
Yeah, this is, you see the deck in now humming along nicely. This is basically what it wants to do. Yeah, he has
Delirium active by the looks of things.
Sorcery, instant creature, and land. Yes, so now he can find Elder Deep Fiend.
An Elder Deep Fiend, pretty big problem, because those prized Amalgams, you can sacrifice them, you can bring them back, and the Deep Fiend itself effectively just sort of shutting down one of the Ramonut Red's deck's turns.
I mean, Paulo seems to have quite a few lands, but not much he can do now. The Kozilek's Return into suddenly flood the board with a bunch of creatures and with backup. It's just always hard to deal with.
I mean, there's even the Lumbering Falls that's going to be mildly problematic at some point.
Yeah, upkeep, tap your 4 lands.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
No. All right, we're going to have another game 3 here. We've seen quite a few game 3s. These red decks, they're still performing, but it seems like everyone's got a bit more of a plan against them than perhaps they had previously at the Pro Tour. I think there are a couple of people caught flat-footed by quite how potent the red deck is. While it was the most played deck in the field, I think that there were some people that hadn't quite got the measure of how good it was.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. And you know what? When I talked to Martin user in between the rounds, or between before the previous round, he just came by and is like, "Why is not everyone playing Ramina Bread? This deck's so good and so powerful, so straightforward. Like it's just really good." That he was surprised that more people are not actually playing it. And but he's also a very good player who knows the limits of his decks. And yeah, he was just really happy playing it. And I think the deck is not easy to play. It's still fairly difficult to sequence properly, but it's very powerful.
Yeah, knowing when to be as aggressive as you possibly can versus perhaps transitioning into a slightly more mid to late game, mid-rangey plan. I mean, in general, I think that the idea that your burn deck, for lack of a better term, or your sort of make creatures and attack deck is easy to play is a little bit of an oversimplification.
Yes.
Once you're starting to have to apportion out damage over various turns, yes, you will have games where everything just works out. And those games will tend to end very, very quickly and feel like there were no decisions made whatsoever. But being a great Magic player is not about winning the games that everyone would win. It's about winning the games that almost no one would win, where you have to kind of carefully piece together what you think that your plan is in the face of what your opponent's plan is. Like, how do you beat your opponent's best draws?
Yeah.
These players just finishing sideboarding. I think that there was a little cursory look to the sideboard for Paulo Garetta, certainly after game 2, because now he has a more complete understanding of the potential for what can come from Mark Tobiasz's deck. In game 1, it was very much a question of he was going through the motions. He met a small amount of resistance, but it was only a small amount, and really just little more than a speed bump for Garetta. This time round, well, he knows that he's got a bit of a fight on his hands.
Yeah, and playing first with the red deck is just so important. The free damage you can get in early just matters so much in the mid and late game, of course, as you look to finish off the match with the Ramina Ruins and whatnot.
Kind of a slow-looking hand from Mark Tobiasz here. He has traversed the Elven Wild. He has a land, but that land's a Lumbering Falls that comes into play tapped, so it gets a little fiddly in terms of being able to get much going in the first couple of turns. I'm sure that Mark will be very happy to see that his opponent's on a mulligan here. The Ramanap red deck, you know, looking back to the top 8 of Pro Tour Hour of Devastation, it certainly can get past a mulligan or two.
Yeah, yeah.
If it happens to end up with a mulligan hand with Hazaret in, sometimes that mulligan doesn't even feel all that bad at all. If it gets its lands and spells in the right order, it just still represents a colossal amount of damage.
And that's what makes it powerful, right? That you don't have to rely on drawing specific combination of cards in your opening 7. So yeah, it's just a powerful deck.
All right, just as these players are finishing off shuffling from mulligan, we're going to have a very quick look at the standings, just so we can see where things are at. We can see Mark Tobiasz, one of a whole slew of people on 12 points. Andre Strasky, Martin User, Giuseppe Reale, just a whole host of people. At this stage, round 4, it's still relatively early in the tournament. This is kind of what we'd expect. Gregor Kowalski, Lucas Blahon. There are many, many familiar names. And we'll head on to see the people past 20th position. This is very much the way that the tournament's going to be early on. So when we look at the next set, we see that we've still got a whole ton of people on 12 points. Right now is not the point where anyone wins the tournament. It's where they're just trying to avoid losing early on. Alessandro Lippi we can see in here, Tony Ramos Pascual, Javier Dominguez, all of these guys on 12 points. We're seeing a good mix of our both our Italian friends and people from all around Europe that have shown up to this GP here in Turin, Italy. Looking at slide 3 here, actually there's more than 60 players still on 12 points. This is very much still tournament in progress. If we head back though, I think the game's just getting kicked off here between these players as we go into game 3. Okay. We see not too much action early on, just Arncroc Crasher coming from Paulo Garetta, while Mark Tobiasz, we mentioned that he had kind of a slow hand, trying to get things going with Traverse the Elven Wild, finding his land, and now we have Grapple with the Past, which means that he's just sort of gradually, slowly but surely getting things going.
Yeah, it looked like Mark Tobias was wanted to play the grapple with the past, but showed the traverse the oval involved by mistake. So, but he's gonna get the. It looks like he's gonna get his arbor back stomper now, but he may be thinking about the Mummering Fall as well, because he only has a Botanical Sanctum in his hand. Yeah, no, he's gonna go for the stomper because he'll also be able to play the Sanctum and now traverse for another land, probably a mountain, I would say.
It seems likely that means that he's going to have all 4 of his colours, and it's worth noting that while this Emerge deck does have a 4-colour requirement, for any one spell, the requirement on multiples of the same colour of mana is comparatively low. There are a couple of double green cards, but those are kind of in the minority. Most of the time, if he's got one land that taps for each colour of mana, he's probably in pretty good shape. Yeah,
it's mostly a green deck.
So we see there an Aethersphere Harvester coming along for Paolo Goreta. It means that he's got an extra line of attack, gets to fly in, even if it works out that there are some big bodies on the ground. Spirit Token coming along with that Haunted Dead for Mark Tobias. No prized amalgams to get back just yet.
Oh, Incendiary Flow, the promo version. Exiles, the Haunted Dead, very important.
Yeah, that's where you want it to be. Nowhere close to that graveyard. In many respects, at its scariest when it's in the graveyard. Cruise up the Aethersphere Harvester and spends a point of energy so that he can gain lifelink.
So let's see. Oh, I think he has trips of Elder Deep Fiend, which is not ideal. On this turn, he probably wanted to smash with this Arborback Stomper, but unfortunately, he won't get to do that. And he will probably have to just traverse for a land and pass. The split card there is Consigned to Oblivion.
All right.
Something we don't see a lot of, but it's the first consign is bounces with non-land permanent to its owner's hand, and Oblivion part for 5 mana discards 2 cards from his opponent. And it's interesting to see why he would run such a card, but it's just fairly versatile.
Yeah, a lot of value there.
Yeah, he can bounce his own stuff. If with the front part, and remember he's milling himself so much that sometimes he can just randomly mill the Oblivion and just play it as like a really expensive Mind Rot. But if it gets the last 2 cards of your opponent's hand,
it's
nice.
Expensive in terms of mana, but if you're milling it anyway, it's kind of a free card.
Yeah.
So Paolo Goreta here, his mana curve looking lovely, gets Hazaret in play. Hazaret not able to attack, but is able to jump in the Aethersphere Harvester and send that one flying on over. Spirit Token feeling compelled to block there.
And he's probably going to bounce the Unchrome Crasher, or does he have something better? Oh, okay, he has a Kozilek's Return.
I like that. No life gain there, because I believe that the Kozilek's Return killed off the Spirit Token that was blocking before the Aethersphere Harvester could deal any damage.
Mark just drew a tapped land. Must be a little frustrating, but that's what his deck sometimes does. But he has the Stomper at least, so it's going to gain him life back. It's a 5-4, Chad, 5-4.
We figured it out.
I figured it out. Ooh, but
here
again,
is Chandra. Instantly
Chandra, and this is so important because remember, Mark is stuck with 3 Elder Deep Fiends in his hand, and he just needs something that he can emerge with, and with our back Stomper gone, it's going to be that much tougher.
Grapple with the past. The number's just not quite stacking up for Mark Tobias the way that he wants. If he had 1 more mana, then he could use Grapple with the past to get something going here.
Yeah, and he doesn't really want to use the Oblivion side of Consigned to Oblivion just because of Hazaret not being able to attack just yet. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, Ishkana.
That's a Graph Widow herself.
Yeah, it's a blocker and a half.
Well, it's a blocker and 3.
True. And he also found the Haunted Dead, which is quite important because he has those Elder Deep Fiends in his hand, and it's ooh, okay. He's tempted by the Arborback Stomper.
It is a lot of life that you get with the Arborback Stomper. It's
still
he's buying peace of mind for future turns here.
Yeah, I still think he's going to go for a Haunted Dead activation. He doesn't have any prize amalgams, but he's just trying to hold on.
Can Paolo Goreta here get his Hazaret the Fervent active and into the red zone? If he can, then he's representing a huge amount of damage this turn. Well, Chandra reveals another Hazaret. That one, a safe one to just represent 2 points of burn to the head.
Earthshaking Kenra, though, is definitely going to add to the damage. Now swinging for 5 here. Is it time for a consign?
It may yet be.
It's not a great spot, though, because Mark Tobiasz's deck is just not that good at coming back. I don't think his deck is that good at blocking or winning from behind. He's just trying to prevent as much damage as possible here, but he might just struggle.
I mean, I guess Elder Deep Fiend represents a lot of Kozilek's returns.
Yes. And I think he's hoping, I think he might be hoping to draw a land so that he could theoretically play Elder Deep Fiend and our Backstomper in one turn. But he's just going for the Haunted Dead. Has to discard 2 cards. Ooh. He doesn't even want the Arbor Backstomper. He's confident, looks like.
Yeah, a bit of a decision here. Lots of Elder Deep Fiends in hand. 2 of them getting discarded to that Haunted Dead there. Does choose to keep Arbor Backstomper around.
Oh, Evolving Wilds. Another tapped land.
The perils of a 4-color mana base coming back to haunt Mark Tobiasz here. Meanwhile, Paolo Garetta, he gets to do some cool things with his lands that are simply just throwing at the opponent's head. A Braid coming down there for Paolo Garetta.
And now tough decisions for Mark, who was hoping the Haunted Dead would stay in place so that he could use it to emerge the Haunted Dead. And Paolo was reading the Consign to Oblivion. He's like, oh, discard 2 cards, sign me up.
Yeah.
I want that.
All right, a cheeky point coming through there from that Spirit. Here's Arbor Backstomper.
Yet again. I think Paolo has another Chandra in his hand as well. Paolo just decided that I'm just going to kill everything.
So.
Oh, mana. Ooh, even better.
I guess maybe this is why we don't see Arbor Backstomper so much, is that 4 toughness seems like it's a relatively easy target for what the red deck has going on these days. That is an exerted Glorybringer.
Yeah, Mark just trying to stick some things, trying to get back into the game.
He should be happy. He's not had to face an attacking Hazaret at any point in this game.
True.
I'm not sure that he should be that happy. Normally, if your opponent can't cast Hazaret, that means that it's because they've drawn gigantic threats.
Yeah. And it still helped to crew the Ether Sphere Harvester in the early turns.
All true facts.
So they're just checking something, or maybe just Mark's doing the math, trying to figure out what he wants to do.
Yeah, Mark's on 7, generally known as nearly dead.
Yeah,
against these red decks.
Problem with Mark's deck is now at this point he kind of has to combine keeping cards back so he has something to discard to the Haunted Dead, and while also trying to play something else, and it's just really difficult against such a big board already.
So 2 points of damage from Karizev there. Paolo would have loved to have found a way of just closing the game out this exact turn. It doesn't look like that's on the cards. Lumbering Falls.
Okay. That was easy pickings.
Yeah, looks like Paolo may have not spotted that one was had the potential to get involved in combat there.
Yeah. A little awkward for Paolo.
Looks like he followed it up by forgetting to add the energy for his Ether Sphere Harvester as well.
Yeah, I think he's a little nervous here. I mean, he is playing against one of the best European players right now in Mark Tobiasz. Gold level pro.
It's funny, this is something that I find is a bit of a hole in my game. When I feel like I'm way in front, that's the time that I'm most apt to make little mistakes.
Sure.
And they're the ones that hurt the most when it suddenly does all go wrong. Quite a lot of things need to go badly for Paolo Garetta here at this point for him not to find a way of taking the win, but we'll see soon enough. Sweltering Suns?
Interesting. He just really wanted the creatures off the board and just play his big guys interesting plan.
Well, I think that he sent the 2 to the head there.
Yep, he did.
I can live with that choice. So we have 2 lethal attackers coming in. And an exert to kill the 1 blocker for Mark Tobias. Are there any remaining tricks up the German player's sleeve?
Yep, he's going to bring back Haunted Dead. Put the trigger on the stack. Of course, he has to discard 2 cards. He's going to put the trigger on the stack with the Spirit. And in response to that, he's going to play the Elder Deep Fiend. And triggering his Kozilek's Return. And top 4 lands. That's pretty cute play, we have to say. Yeah,
I like it.
Especially in combat. Yeah, but he's still going to take a Hazard activation to the face.
Risky business here. Mark Tobias clinging on for now. Just the 1 point of life.
Okay, and now a Raminab Ruins as well. I mean...
You just need to do 22, Mark. That's all you have to do.
A Collective Brutality to gain 2 and then kill Chandra and still has to deal with the Hazard.
Some sneaky way of getting that Arbor back Stomper back again.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing.
Ramanap Red just racking up the wins here in our feature match area at Grand Prix Turin. Congratulations to Paolo Garetta. He advances to 5-0. And we will be back with more Magic soon enough. But first, these messages.